We'll get started shortly. For now, please locate the chat box and toggle the to icon from all panelists to all panelists and attendees to ensure that we can see your questions and comments as we move through the program today. Let us know where you're logging in from and what kind of work you're seeking if you are a Job Club seeker. Alrighty, so welcome to Job Club. Welcome. Don't forget to put where you are in the chat box here so that we can give you a good morning. It's going to be a really, really good presentation today. Can't wait to see this one. Welcome to Job Club, everyone. All righty, welcome to Job Club. We're glad that you've joined us today. Make sure to toggle that to icon from all panelists to all panelists and attendees. Hello, Amy. Excuse me, good morning. Welcome to Job Club. Good morning. Don't forget to put a hello here in the chat box. Let us know where you're logging in from so we can give you a good morning here. And don't forget to toggle the to icon from all panelists to all panelists and attendees so we can get your questions and comments. Let's see here. Alrighty, good morning from Athens, Georgia. Alrighty, good morning, Laura. How are you? Good morning and welcome to Job Club. It's going to be exciting today. Good morning. Alrighty, thank you guys. Alrighty, get my glasses off here. Good morning, Pam. Good morning, Laura. Alrighty, good morning. Thank you guys for all of those who are joining us today. Welcome to Job Club. We're so glad that you've joined us today and we'll get started shortly. So just please remember to toggle the to icon from all panelists to all panelists and attendees to ensure that we can see your questions and comments as we move through the program today. All righty. Let us know where you're logging in from, everyone. Let us know where you're logging in from and what kind of work you're seeking. All righty. Hello, Martin from Texas. How are you? Good morning and welcome to Job Club. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Joe from Georgetown. Thank you for joining us here at Job Club today. Thank you. Already, we'll get started shortly here. Good morning, Kristen. Thank you from Lexington. Good morning. Welcome to Job Club. Alrighty, we'll give it a few more seconds here and we'll get started. You guys don't forget, I'm sorry, anyone who is joining us to toggle that to icon from all panelists to all panelists and attendees so that we can get started here shortly. We don't want to miss any of your questions or comments. You'll be able to type those in the chat box. Good morning, Michelle from Georgetown. Thank you for joining us today for Job Club. Good morning, Krista from Shelby County. Good morning. Welcome to Job Club. And we're so glad that you guys have joined us today. And we are about to get started here shortly. All righty. Yes. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, Mike. Good morning from Lex. All righty. My hometown there. Welcome, everyone. All righty. Okay, so we're about to get started here, you guys. Give me a second here. Good morning. I just want to make sure you guys that may have not heard, if you want to toggle that to icon from all panelists to all panelists to all panelists and attendees so that we can get your questions and comments answered here for today. This is going to be a great presentation. All righty.
All right, Nicole, you ready? Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it, you guys. Okay.
Awesome. Well, welcome to Job Club. We're so grateful to have you with us today. We have a wonderful speaker and her slides look just awesome. So we're really excited to hear the content. Here's our quick agenda for the day. Our warm welcome. Got a couple of success stories that were emailed in since last time we met. Our wonderful main speaker. We're going to share some active job leads, give some quick partners updates, and we'll talk about next time at Job Club. Here's the Job Club facilitation team. Diana Doggett and Caroline Francis are out today. So me and Nicole are manning the cruise ship today. So you'll see us on screen. We have Queen and chat moderation sharing resources as we go along. And Ellie Goodman leading the screen share and Suzanne Smith helping at the extension office. So thanks so much to our staff. It really takes a team to make a program like this work. And we're really happy to provide Job Club for you. Job Club, the mission of Job Club is to provide a positive environment for job seekers to network and learn best practices for the job search. If you're new to the group, we meet on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month, and you can find our schedule of topics at ukalumni.net/job club, and we'll pop that into the chat. We're currently working on the fall schedule, so if you have ideas for us, feel free to shoot us an email and let us know. We're currently working on that fall schedule to be hybrid, in person at the extension office and online. Currently, right now, the summer schedule is only offered online due to COVID-19. All right, next slide. Welcome to our first timers. We're so grateful to have you in the group. If you're new to the group, know that this is the most warm and welcoming group of support. And you're going to receive an email later today that's going to, if you complete that survey, it'll put you into our regular notification. So you get notice for whenever we meet and what those topics are. So do fill that out. Okay, next slide. Resources, definitely check out our free resource packet. It's online at ukalumni.net/job club. You'll also need access to that link because our speaker today has a couple of handouts that are supplemental to her presentation. So you'll want to go on there. We already have her PowerPoint loaded onto that website so that you can see the handouts. They're at the very end of that PDF for today's file. Okay. Inside of our free resource packet, you'll see job search FAQs, networking opportunities right here in Central Kentucky, informational interview and networking tips, a directory of staffing agencies locally in the area, and just a ton of resources, articles, a resume review checklist, and LinkedIn resources. Please join our LinkedIn sharing community on LinkedIn. It's a group on there. Sometimes we get job leads in between our regular meetings that are going to expire before we're able to send out another active job lead newsletter during a session. And so we always pop those job leads onto that LinkedIn group. So if you want to be on the know on those timely job leads, definitely join the group. All right, success stories. Success stories don't have to be that you got a job. Although if you get a job, we want to hear about your success so that we can share it with the group. I'll be watching the chat, but for now, if you had a networking coffee, if you applied to a new job that was on your target list, if you networked, I'm trying to think of other example success stories that we've had come through. Any successes, please pop them into the chat and we're happy to share them with the group. I'm going to read a couple that have come in since last time that we met. So here's one from a client who preferred to remain confidential, but she wanted to share some advice with the group. My recommendation is don't give up on your goals. Act on working every day towards making progress with dedication, patience, and follow up. Anything is possible. Each day, try to do a few small things. Edit your resume, apply for jobs outside of your experience and comfort zone. Use the resources that are available to you, like UK Alumni Career Services, and just keep trying until you get that call. Confidence is key, so talk with others, network, and get others to review your resume and other assistance in networking. It took me personally stepping out of my comfort zone and connecting with others to help me feel comfortable, confident, and capable to do any job that you applied for. Well, that's a good one. All right, here's another one that recently came through. Looks like this one came through to Diana. Diana, I attended Job Club intermittently between 2018 and 2020. Otto also utilized career services with Caroline Francis during that time period. Caroline helped to calm my imposter syndrome and increase my confidence. Job Club helped me to learn how to cultivate stellar resumes. It taught me how to tailor applications and cover letters so I could showcase my skills to match a job description. First, Job Club helped me to build the confidence to apply for jobs outside of my typical work experience. I took an amazing opportunity to work for a Broke Spoke community bike shop from winter 2018 to spring of 2020. In 2018-19, I applied for multiple positions with the Healing Community Study at UK, and I was invited to interview for a STEPS temporary position in winter 19. I got the job. It was a long year as a temporary employee with limited benefits. In 2020, I snagged a full-time permanent position, fully benefited position as an administrative assistant with the study. I now have duties with the implementation team, communications team, and with our executive director. Here are a few tips that I have for the job search or for the job club group. These are good. Okay, be honest in your applications and interviews about the skill sets that you can showcase and those that are willing to build upon to serve to do that job well. Number 2, do negotiate your pay. That's a good tip. 3, say yes to opportunities, and 2, do new tasks if it feels good with respect to your workload. This will build new skill sets that you can take with you. Diana, this is just a snippet of my journey to share with the group. Thank you and Caroline for all of your individualized support. Oh, she said it really helped with her getting her confidence. That's fantastic. Okay, last one that came through. This one came through last night. It's from Sandy Boykin. Job Club was such a great help during my job search. I had not applied or interviewed for jobs in over 10 years. Many things have changed in trends. Job Club helped me to make adjustments to my resume and gave me tips on interviewing virtually. It was also a place of encouragement to keep going during a long job search. Keep applying and stay in touch with your network, and you'll find the right job. Oh, thanks, Sandy. That's great feedback. All right, I'm not seeing any other success stories in the chat, but know that we love it when you share those. And I think we're ready for the next slide, Ellie. All right. It's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, our fabulous guest speaker for today, Ashley. Dr. Sorrell earned a Ph.D. in history from the University of Kentucky in 2016. Her role as Assistant Director of Graduate Student Professional Enhancement, she supports graduate students across the institution with events and programming related to teaching and career diversity, competitions for research and teaching presentations, and the campus-wide orientations for graduate students and teaching assistants. For her role as senior consultant at CELT, Dr. Sorrell works with instructors on inclusive teaching practices, student engagement strategies, and collaborative pedagogy. Before joining CELT, she was a teaching assistant for the UK Department of History and was awarded the Provost Outstanding Teacher Award. She continues to teach courses in history, civic engagement, and women's and gender studies, as well as courses in teaching and learning for preparing future faculty and professional programs at UK. Welcome, Ashley. We're so grateful to have you.
Great. Thank you so much, Amanda. And a big thanks to the Job Club staff for inviting me to give the presentation today to the University of Kentucky's or Central Kentucky Job Club. I am very excited to be here. And I just want to say I loved hearing the success stories to start out this presentation. A lot of what was in those stories is kind of related to what we'll be talking about today in the concept of, oops, sorry, too fast, too clicky, transferable skills and the ways in which we can communicate, well, identify, communicate, and leverage our transferable skills when applying or interviewing for a potential career or job position. So I want to start this presentation by first offering us some guiding questions that we'll engage with through the course of this morning's session. First is simply getting a definition of what are transferable skills. I'm sure we've all heard of this concept, but sometimes I think it's best to start so that we're all on common ground with a common definition of what these skills encompass. Second, we'll look at what are maybe some top transferable skills that employers are looking for. So we'll be identifying some specific skills and why employers are seeking professionals with this type of skill set. Essentially, why they see them as important. Finally, I'm going to ask you all to do some reflective work. The teacher and me, you have to at least apply some of this knowledge at some point during this presentation. And so just reflecting on what transferable skills do you have? Now, you might have already done this in the past, but I just encourage you to kind of revisit. These are skills that we develop from birth, really. They're skills that are continually in development. So sometimes it is useful to go back and revisit the skills that we have. And I think what is most important, and what I heard in a lot of the success stories, is how you can effectively communicate these skills on the job market when applying for jobs. So let's start with a definition. Begin by looking at some characteristics of transferable skills. Essentially, these are general but dynamic skills that are not confined to a specific career. You may have heard of these called, quote, soft skills, but I really think that phrase kind of undervalues the importance of these competencies in not just getting a job, but in long-term career success in any field. The term soft skills is often used in opposition to hard skills, or what we may think of as the technical skills, the deep content knowledge that a position may require. Yet, in many career fields and in many job responsibilities, soft skills are sometimes more important than the technical skills. Critics of the term, and this is something that is being argued over whether we should keep using the phrase soft skills to characterize transferable skills or not. So critics of the term actually agree that soft skills negates the importance of these skills, and they've tried to do a rebranding of sorts, so that instead of soft skills, we're looking at this as maybe essential skills, or a term that has grown in relevance, particularly when we're looking at teaching and higher education, is teaching emotional intelligence, is what we're talking about a lot when we're talking about transferable skills. Either way, these are competencies that you learn and use throughout your life. And so there are many different contexts in which you have developed and utilized transferable skills. So this makes these skills a portable skill set that are vital in the workplace. I don't know how many of you have heard of this concept of T-shaped professionals versus I-shaped professionals. I think there's X-shaped professionals. Professionals come in all shapes, apparently. But I think most relevant to us is this idea of employers seeking and valuing what is known as a T-shaped professional. Now, before there was an emphasis on an I-shaped employee, the I-shaped employee, it valued the depth of knowledge in a specific area, but now the focus has shifted. And I've read that even with the current pandemic, it's shifted even further in needing to have more generalists in nature, particularly in employees who are agile and adaptable. If you think of all the changes and shifts that have gone on in the workplace since 2020. And that's just in 1 year. I know I had to adapt quite a bit in my position. But generalists in nature, they're agile, they're able to collaborate. We see a lot of, we need employees who can collaborate, who can communicate, who can work in teams, right? But they're able to collaborate in other knowledge areas. So not just their own kind of narrow silo, they can speak across expertise and perhaps more importantly, be cross-trained to take on a number of roles as needed. I know cross-training for my own position and field was vital this past year. I had to learn a lot of the technical side of Zoom and the learning management system that wasn't necessarily necessary for me to learn before. And so I think cross-training is important. And your ability to be able to be cross-trained really depends on these transferable skills. So in this concept, or in this context, the T-shaped professional stands out in their ability to rely upon their transferable skills while gaining some of the specific knowledge or technical tasks needed, gaining that and learning that on the job as they go. So let's take a look at this graphic specifically. We can see that the vertical bar represents the depth of knowledge in a single discipline, technical field, whatever the case may be. But we see the larger horizontal bar, which represents the transferable skills that make a well-rounded professional. These skills include those related to personal ethics, context in your ability to collaborate across expertise, and also personal values, or I think maybe a better word for this would be emotional intelligence. Now, these values impact your leadership and interactions with customers and coworkers. So T-shaped professionals have the core transferable skills to, which I think is very important, learn things quickly. And they excel in their main responsibilities, but can perform other tasks effectively as well. So we're just really looking at a well-rounded potential employee that employers are seeking. So you may be thinking at this point, okay, well, what are some specific transferable skills? So let's take a look at this. And we're just going to use the chat function. I was going to do a word cloud thing, but I'm afraid I'll mess it up and it might be a little wonky. I have to work on my confidence too, right? So let's just use the chat function, and I want you to answer, what would you say is the top transferable skills employers seek when hiring? So just chat one skill you think might be the top skill employers seek when hiring, and we'll take a look at your answers. We're getting some great answers coming in. Yeah. I think the number one vote getter here is communication. And definitely, we hear a lot from employers the need for effective communication. Now, this communication isn't just verbal, but also written communication. And so communication skills are often one of the top sets that employers are looking for. Second, I like to see there are some teamwork, right? Being able to collaborate and work with others. And that is not necessarily entirely separate from communication. So what we're going to see is the way that all these skills are kind of intersected with one another, right? So when you're talking about your ability to work with others, you're essentially talking about the communication, interpersonal communication skills you have. And I like to see learn quickly. I think that is very important. If you can be taught anything, you can catch on to anything fairly quickly, that is going to be such a vital skill that you'll want to communicate. Flexibility. And I think flexibility, adaptability is going to be one of those skills, particularly moving forward from 2020, that a lot of employers are going to want to see that you can demonstrate. Willing to learn and grow. Yes, John mentioned that. Excellent skill. These are all great. Resilience. Yeah, right. And you are demonstrating a lot of resilience being on the job market right now, right? There's probably nothing harder that takes resilience than keep looking for jobs and applying. Good. All right. So I do have a list. Now this list is the most recent one I can find from 2019 in LinkedIn. And so these are the top 5 skills that employers were looking for 2019, and this is from LinkedIn. So for number 5 is time management. We see this a lot, time management in the workplace. 4 in 2019 was adaptability, flexibility. 3, collaboration, communication, I think can be / communication. Number 2 was persuasion, and number 1 was creativity. Are there any, my question to you now is, are there any skills listed here that you are surprised to see, or any surprises by the order of the skills? And you can just chat your answer. So Amy says she's surprised at creativity being number 1. Yep. Creativity was the surprise. June is surprised by persuasion, number 2. And you know, I would agree with you all. I also was surprised that creativity was number 1. I was surprised to see persuasion on the list at all, although I do see the benefit. I kind of understand the justification there. Yep. So Ellen says, I think these are skills that were important pre-pandemic. It would be interesting to see the same poll post-pandemic. And Ellen, I do agree. I couldn't find one, but if any of you all who are online right now can find, you know, a list of skills post-pandemic, please feel free to share, because I too am interested to see how it's shifted and changed over time. Lauren, also surprised to see persuasion on the list. Mike, persuasion and lesson sales. Yeah, and so I guess the question with this list is, you know, what is the representation of different career types that were surveyed for this list? But, you know, I creativity, yeah, that was kind of surprising for me. I can get why, you know, there is a need for thinking outside the box, for creative thought. But to be number 1, you know. So assuming adaptability has moved to 1 or 2 in 2020 and 20, yeah. Good. All right. So those are your top 5 in 2019. I do encourage you to see if you can find a top 5 in 2020, 2021, but yeah. All right. So now employers have reported a gap in these types of competencies related to transferable skills. As we can see from this quote I've pulled here, and I believe this quote was from 2020, companies often value an employee's dynamic skill set over specific technical knowledge or experience. So looking holistically at the job applicant, at everything they bring to the table. So these skills can be particularly important when you're changing careers, have been out of the workforce for a period of time, or if you're seeking a different position within your current field. They are skills that you will communicate in your job applications and interviews when your experience is minimal in the field. So I'm going to give you actually an example, a personal example from my experience. So obviously I was a graduate student, right? My degree is in history and the humanities. I don't know if I have fellow humanities folks in here, but if I do, I think we all know that we have to kind of depend on communicating the skills we got as far as the ways of thinking, analytical ability, etc. So as a graduate student, I was working on my dissertation, my Ph.D. My funding was running out, and I also was kind of tired of being living in graduate student poverty, right? And so I wanted to get a position, and I decided to look outside of academia. And I saw an opening for a technical writing position at what was Hewlett Packard Extreme. I think now it's Open Text. And I decided to apply despite having no technical skills as far as knowing the software, knowing any type of computer coding, any computer science at all, right? And so when I applied, I relied all on my transferable skills in my job interview to communicate what value I would bring to that company as a technical writer. So I can remember that the main skill I really communicated was, as a teacher, what we do as teachers is communicate complex topics to novice audiences. And when you think about it, as a technical writer, that is what you're doing as well. And so I really depended on that background as being an educator, a teacher. No direct experience whatsoever, not even in the technical writing field, no direct experience in the software field. But my ability to do that, I eventually did get that position that I was in for a little bit. And so that's an example of how I depended on communicating transferable skills to get a position completely outside my expertise and my experience. So I just wanted to share that with you as my why I love presenting on transferable skills, why I see them as so important, because they have legitimately helped me get positions outside of my expertise. So this is where we're going to do the reflective work, where you're going to identify or revisit a list of transferable skills that you've already identified. Now, there are different categories we can organize transferable skills under, but for our purposes here, we'll look at these skills under the category of people skills, analytical skills, organization skills, and because creativity was on the list, skills that speak to creativity. I've provided specific examples of these skills, such as empathy being a people skill, budgeting being one related to analytical skills. But it's important to remember, and I don't think I can emphasize this enough, that all of these skills in some way intersect. You can't really put them in silos and boxes because, you know, if you're problem solving, then you also in some way have to have some organizational skills, right? Have to have some project management, time management skills. So it's hard to put them in boxes, but for our simplicity purposes today, to start creating that list, we are just kind of looking at these separate in silos. So this is what I want you to do. Let's take a couple of minutes for some self-reflection and identify a specific skill, transferable skill, you have in each of these 4 categories. Now, if you are at a loss, Amanda shared the link that had the additional resources with this presentation. One of those resources is a list of transferable skills that you can draw upon. So I want us to take a minute, think about a specific skill you have in each of these categories. And then after a minute, we'll come back and see what skills we have developed as a group.
Hey, Ashley, I just wanted to read the directions for those that might be watching on Facebook Live because they may not be able to see the chat. If
Okay.
you go to ukalumni.net/job club, scroll about halfway down and click past topics and recordings, you'll be able to see the schedule, and Dr. Sorrell's PowerPoint slides are up there. The 2 PDFs that we're talking about, it's the next to last one at the very end of the PDF.
Excellent. Thank you, Amanda. Okay, let's take about 20 more seconds. I won't do a countdown, but about 20 more seconds. And if you already have your list in mind, your skill in each of these categories, what I'm going to ask you to do is put those in the chat box, list them, list the skills. You can just do 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so let's chat our skills. Let's see what this group has, what this group is going to bring to the table. Okay, so PACE, helping people identify their skill, collaboration. Yes, big one, collaboration, analyze data, project management, that's huge. Design a solution to meet a need. Jennifer, that last one is awesome. PACE, problem solving, create agenda and manage meetings. Yeah, I love that. I love the specific there. It's not easy to manage meetings. It seems easy, but it's hard to engage employees, right? Good. Amy, good. Work with people across different cultures. Yes. So looking for, this diversity mindset and empathy, listening skills. Yeah, that's probably one that is much needed, but hard to find. Customer service, good. Empathy. I love empathy. I think empathy is so important. Analyze data, budget, productive, learn quickly, lots of initiative. Initiative's good. Big picture with attention to detail. Nice, PACE. Nice. Creativity, brainstorming. Yeah. These are great. And this is a great start. I think starting by just creating a list, you can create a list in these categories, or you can just create one big list to start and then look at your categories, is a good way to begin thinking about how you will communicate these skills in your job applications or in an interview. But what's important is that we have to go one step deeper with transferable skills. That's what we just did, sorry. And that is constructing a story. This is the humanities person in me, but a story around a specific skill to show how you will be an asset to the company by bringing the skill to the table. So essentially, when we're telling a story, we're communicating the skill with clarity and conviction. What we want to do is tell the employer and be specific about how we use that skill in a specific scenario. What did we do? What was the outcome? How did you develop that skill, right? And so that we can really begin to pull back the layers of the importance of this specific skill set. And so again, I'm going to ask that we pause and reflect. And I want you to choose one of the skills that you identified in the previous exercise and create a story around it. And like you are in an interview situation, right? you know, the tell me about a time question. And so imagine somebody is asking you, tell me about a time, choose a skill from your list when you really had to use your listening skills, when you feel like you excelled in customer service, right? And then craft that story. What was the specific scenario? What did you do? And what was the outcome? So go ahead and do that piece of paper. And then if you want to share in your chat your specific example, I would be very excited to see and hear about that. So let's just take 1 minute to do this. And if anybody wants to share in the chat, please feel free to do so as well. So Pam says, I am good at listening to students' issues, anxieties, and/or fears. I allow them to vent before assisting. They followed up by telling me they appreciate the opportunity to share, and they felt comfortable confiding in me. That is a great scenario and example. Now, what skills do I see in that scenario and example? And Pam, I'm sure you've identified the skills in that scenario, but there's empathy, right? Interpersonal communication skills. You know, there is just, I think maybe even some mentoring, right? In this specific example. So there's so much that can be drawn from creating these stories, from really thinking back and really reflecting on what it is you've actually done throughout your time in the career field, right? You've done a lot. You just have to realize that, have the confidence to see that, you know what, I did some mentoring there. You know, I really showed empathy in that situation. Jennifer says, I was responsible for communicating large amounts of personal health information to a partner organization. I had to determine what types of information they needed, the best way to communicate it, and the frequency in which they wanted to receive it. That is a lot going on in that scenario and a lot of skills we can pull out of that. Oh my gosh, we are having some great, excellent examples here. Okay. Idea for a new health fair in Mississippi. I love this, combining mental health and physical health. First one held in the state. Holy jeepers, this is great. 6 co-sponsors, large auditorium, $3,000 value. I mean, we got budget management, we got event planning, we got project management, right? We got community engagement, so much going on. And so I encourage you to take your example and then just kind of deconstruct it, pull it apart, get those skills, you know, really identify the skills it took to do all that, right? Sometimes we too easily think of what we do in simple terms, right? I just did this. Well, what all did you have to, how many skills did it take to just do that, right? And so that is really, I think, where the power of transferable skills come into being. So I just wanted, because this is a handout in the resources that are provided, I wanted to just real quick talk about, once you've developed these scenarios and these stories, you can start thinking about creating a different version of your resume that is called a functional resume. Some of you may have already heard this, may already have a functional resume, but this is really good when you don't have that direct experience in a career field, if you're making a career change, right? To really highlight the skills instead of kind of this chronological listing of the jobs that you have held. So highlighting the skills and the skills needed to do the specific position that you may be listing, but also making sure those skills are aligning with the job ad. What skills and competencies the job position is asking for. So this does take some individual tailoring in writing a functional resume, but it puts your skills out front and center. It puts you out front and center. It can tell the employer more about you and what you bring to the table instead of just kind of a list of, this is the experience I have. Well, what did you get from that experience, right? These are the skills I bring. All right, so I just want to leave you with some important things to remember. And I think number one is these are skills you already have. You already have these. These are competencies. These are things that make you awesome, make you unique, make you fit for a position that you are seeking. They're vital to all careers and positions, not just a specific field. And don't underestimate their importance. Again, they're interrelated, right? How do you talk about leadership? If you feel like you're a good leader, this is a transferable skill. Well, what other skills go into being a good leader, right? For example, communication skills, delegation, conflict management, right? And listing your skills can actually help you determine what careers you are interested in pursuing. These are the things I'm good at. Now, what jobs, positions, careers really look for employers who have these things? What jobs, positions, and careers will I be using these skills on a daily basis? These things that I'm passionate about, that I'm good at. They're professional traits that make you unique, that can make you stand out, right? That can really communicate your quote unquote fit for a particular position. They provide evidence of what you bring to the table and your readiness for the position. And they are just generally the foundation for professional success. So this ends the formal presentation, but there's plenty of time for Q&A, general discussion, other scenarios and examples or experience with transferable skills. I'm happy to hear it all, but thank you all so much. Thanks, Harold. Yeah, Mike, every time I do this presentation, I always want to go back and look at my skills too, to rethink them and reflect. I just love reflection work in general.
Alrighty. Okay, so if we have any questions, this was a really great presentation. Thank you guys so much for being interactive. There was a wealth of information, so I hope that you were able to copy and paste some of the information here or maybe take some notes. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat box and I'll go ahead and ask those for you guys so that we can get those answered for you. All righty. So it looks like we do have our first question. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay, great. All right. So it says, I have a question. Is it okay to use skills learned as a stay-at-home parent if work experience is limited? Over the last 14 years, I only have 1 year of work experience.
You know what? I'm going to 100% say yes, because I think society in the United States really devalues the role of stay-at-home parents and everything that entails. So, Amber, yeah. I mean, think about everything, all the skills it takes to be a stay-at-home parent. And those, an employer putting those on the table for an employer will make you very valuable in the way you communicate those. And don't undervalue what you do as a stay-at-home parent. Yes, absolutely, that is relevant when applying.
Okay. Alrighty. We do have another question here for you, Ashley. And okay, this one is from John. It says, would transferable skills be good for the LinkedIn skills section?
I think so. I don't know if there are others panelists here who are more experienced with LinkedIn than I am, but I would definitely say yes, absolutely.
Okay. Alrighty, let's see here. Do we have any more questions here? We definitely have a lot of comments here. You may be able to see some of these yourself.
Yeah.
Wonderful contents. Thanks for the information. Alrighty, let's see here. Okay, so here's a question. Let's see. What do you think are the biggest skills we need to be developing for down the road, maybe 5 years, 5 to 10 years from now?
Yeah, you know what? I think if the past year taught me anything, it's that not to assume or predict anything. But I would say, I know I said this a lot through the presentation, but I really think adaptability and flexibility are going to be the two things. I feel like, positions, you no longer really just do one job. It is more important to be a dynamic employee who can be cross-trained, who can do other duties as assigned, as it were. So I think just being able to show your willingness to learn, somebody put that in the chat as a transferable skill, your ability to learn quickly, your adaptability, and your flexibility.
Okay, great feedback. Okay, so let's see here, we have another question, and it is, when looking at sample resumes, there seems to be many that focus on quantifiable metrics of success. How do you similarly represent transferable skills that don't have similar metrics?
That's a good question. I think you really just have to go back to the job ad and tailor it to that job ad as best you can. If they're asking for, if it seems like the position is really heavy on metrics and determining metrics of success, then you do want to highlight that. Transferable skills, yeah, that is, hard to put a metric to, but maybe you have a section, if the case is your concern is the metrics of success, you have a section on your transferable skills, not really tied to metrics, but still highlighting those as important that make you a well-rounded professional.
Alrighty, thanks. I really like this next comment here. Basically says, this was a great presentation, Dr. Sorrell. It made me rethink how qualified I could be for positions using my transferable skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was definitely, I love the feedback. Okay, let's see here. Next question. Are functional resumes becoming more common? How do employers view the functional resume if it does not conform to the standard of listing chronological work experience?
I think we'll see functional resumes become more common as, the economy shifted a bit. I think more people do have kind of these gaps. I wouldn't call them gaps, but you have people trying to do entrepreneurship, do more of the culture of kind of Uber, Lyft, all that stuff. And so we're not really in this society where we stayed at this company for so many years, this company for so many years. And so I think functional resumes, or at least a change in how resumes are presented, will, will be kind of the future. It's going to depend on the employer. But I would say if I was an employer, I was looking at kind of experience based on, chronological versus someone highlighting their skills interrelated with that experience they had, or even if it's experience that's outside of the field, the skills are really going to catch my eye. And so it's not that you completely have to skew your experience altogether. Maybe it's a hybrid of a functional resume, but the way in which you could communicate your skills in the context of the experience you have.
Okay, alrighty. Looks like we had a question earlier here during the Q&As during the slides from Pace here, and it says, Pace said, I am applying for 2 positions at the same company. I have experience and skills for each, but it means I'm sending 2 different resumes and cover letters. Any suggestions? That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
You know what? I think I would try to keep, and I want to, my panelists, please, feel free. You all are probably the career professionals, so please feel free to correct me. I would tailor the cover letter because the positions are different. Tailor the cover letter, really highlighting the skills as much as you can in the cover letter. I know it'll be shorter, but try to keep the resume somewhat general and the same so that you can speak to both positions in that resume. That would be what I would do, because it is tricky. It's in the same company, but different positions. So that would be my advice. But again, I'm going to kind of concede to my career professional experts here.
Amanda, you have any suggestions about that question?
Sure, happy to tag in. We usually recommend to clients to customize the best you can, comparing to the job, the job description. You might utilize some resources. I'll pop a couple in the chat. Jobscan.co is a good one. That'll compare a job listing to your draft. In general, HR will see both drafts, but the hiring manager, if it's different hiring managers, it's okay to have 2 different drafts. If it's in the same department and likely the same hiring manager, I'd be more wary and go the route that Ashley was saying, more similar drafts. But I love her idea to customize, to really focus in on that cover letter and explain those transferable skills. That's a fantastic thought.
Thank you, Amanda.
Sure.
Already here. Really good questions, you guys. Thank you. Thank you for being so interactive today. Okay, next question. What is the benefit of resume versus vita, especially for someone who has worked about 40 years and needs to start a new career?
Resume versus what?
Let's see here. What is the benefit of a resume versus
CV? Okay. I think if you are applying for a position and it asks for a resume, you give them a resume and not a CV. I learned this from experience. In academia, we do CVs, right? And so we have to learn a lot how to turn our CV into a resume, where a resume is very driven, more so skills driven than a CV is. CV, you're just listing everything, not really telling the employer much about what you did in a particular position. I understand 40 years is a time span, quite a time span to encompass in a resume. But if you can really, again, look at that job description, look at the experience that you've had over that course of 40 years, and which of those positions and in that experience best meets what that job is looking for. I can empathize that this transition is probably very, very difficult. It's very difficult to look at your 40 years and maybe kind of try to pare it down into a resume form. But if the job is asking for a resume, I'd give them a resume and not a CV.
Alrighty, we do have a few more questions here. Okay, next question. How do these skills weigh on the scale against the written items in the job description? The requirements are always slanted towards other specifics about a job.
So I'm guessing other specifics being that technical knowledge, right? or that specific knowledge. Whoever wrote that question, can you tell me if I'm understanding that right? Correct. Okay. Yeah. And so this takes some massaging, right? You have to see that you're still qualified. You're qualified to learn much of that technical knowledge on the job. For example, I remember one of the job success stories was about being an administrative assistant for the study. And a lot of those job postings ask that you be familiar with, oh, I forget the name, even UK specific database management system. Very few people are going to come into that position familiar with it. And a lot of hiring managers know that. That's not the most important thing, though. If you think about what an administrative assistant does, when that person comes in for the interview, they're going to be looking at their interpersonal skills, their communication skills, their ability to fit within that organization and the team. Some of that specific technical knowledge can come as you work that job. As I mentioned in my HP example, knew nothing about that extreme software, that coding, but that's something they're willing to kind of be patient with me. I learned from my colleagues and coworkers, so then I could write about it. And so because there is something technical listed on the job posting, I wouldn't let that discourage you from applying anyway, right? From showing how you can learn quickly, you can adapt, right? You bring these other whole range of skill sets, not just that specific narrow knowledge.
All righty. More thanks here, of course. Very interesting program. Excellent presentation, on point. Thank you. All righty. It looks like we have one more question for you, Ashley, and that is, do you see a blend of both standard and functional resumes, obviously, depending on the job posting?
You know what I do? I really think that is the best approach, kind of this hybrid, functional, highlighting your skills, but not completely disregarding your experience. Now, if you are really iffy, really concerned about your experience, or don't really have much experience to put on the resume, then do functional resume, highlight those skills. But I can tell you that you're probably not thinking reflectively enough about that experience. You probably have more experience than you realize, and that comes from looking at those skills.
Alrighty. Okay, so let's see if we have any more questions here before we let Ashley go. This was so great. Once again, many thanks. Ashley, great skills presentations. Thanks. I could go on and on. Thank you so much for the helpful information. This was very, I mimicked that. Very excellent presentation. I myself was just like, oh my gosh, okay. These are really great. These are really great. And you know, I love it that many people, like you said, may have missed out, as someone pointed out here, may have missed out on an opportunity to apply for something simply because they didn't recognize those skills that they do have and that they can apply them to a current resume or something like that when applying for a job. So thank you so much. This was great information.
Go for it. What's the worst that can happen is they say no.
I like how you
then you move on.
Very valuable info. Okay, all right, you guys, if you don't have any more questions, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next slide here. And so if we have any employers in our audience today, excuse me, attendees share job leads, okay? And so job targets via the webinar chat. Sorry, attendees here, if you have any job leads and you want to share those, if you want to put those in the chat box, feel free to go ahead and do so. Employers with an active job lead, if you want to raise your hand in the chat box, we'll go ahead and give you a second to present. You go ahead and do that now, actually, if you want. We'll give you a few moments here. You may also email us at, email your job leads, I should say, by noon at ukalumnicareer@uky.edu. And we'll include them in our post-meeting job lead list. Alrighty, so please take out time to share that right now. And as I mentioned, we'll give you a few seconds to get that in before we move on here in the program. Thank you all again. You guys are really interactive today. this makes it even more enjoyable. Um, great information. Okay, alrighty. Well, Amanda, if you want to kind of take it from here.
I'm not seeing any employers in the with hands up to share. And
Okay.
I think your updates might be first year. There you go. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thank you. Thank you guys. Okay. So I am Nicole, Wait, once again, and I work in STEPS temporary employment in HR here at the University of Kentucky. And so we have many job leads, and what a great presentation that can kind of just, transfer right over into what I'm about to talk about here. STEPS employment is temporary employment within the University of Kentucky. And so there are jobs posted here. I actually am going to share about 6 with you guys, and I'll go ahead and stick those in the chat box. And we'll also have these listed for you today. Let's see here, the email that you'll receive today. And so we have a range of positions from administrative assistants to research assistants, custodial. There are so many, you guys. And I actually encourage you to visit the HR employment website yourself. And I'll give you a few moments if you want to copy and paste some of these. These are just some that are highlighted here, but there are many. We have about 90 of these available. And just for, as I mentioned, as a range here, and be sure to take some of those skills that you've learned about today and work that and put that in there. We're waiting. We're ready for you guys. So please utilize what you've learned today and apply for some of these positions. And as I mentioned, these are not the only positions. So feel free to go on our page and search there. Definitely go ahead and search there. Okay, so let's see here. If we want to go ahead and go to the next slide, and I'll hand it over to you, Amanda.
Thanks, Nicole. That's fantastic. This is really a great way to get on at UK and get some experience. So I highly recommend if you haven't checked out those job leads, especially the ones that she popped into the chat, watch for those. We'll include those in our active job lead newsletter. If you registered for the session today, we'll be sending it to the email that you registered with this afternoon. So watch for that email. It'll be from Suzanne Smith. Quick updates from Alumni Career Services. Big programs we're really focused on Job Club here in the summer, but we are taking individual clients. So if you're in need of a resume review or a practice interview, know that we serve the active and life members of the Alumni Association. Anyone can join the Alumni Association. So if you'd like some more information on that, feel free to shoot us an email or click the links that Queen has popped over there into the chat box. With Diana out, I'm going to give her update on the next slide here. She did want us to let you all know that she's doing a couple of new programs that are coming up. Food preservation classes. There are a couple of classes on boiling water canning and pressure canning and how to can jams and jellies, which sounds fascinating to me. I want to learn how to do all this good stuff. So watch for those links in the chat box there and feel free to join those as you like. And then next time at Job Club, just in closing, July 27th is our next meeting at 9 a.m. We are online for that meeting, probably back in person and hybrid in September. Success tips for job seekers 45 and older. Reba Carroll with the Stuckert Career Center and Diane Kohler, career coach with Career Life Matters. She's a former HR expert out of UK, HR too. We'll be here and we'll pop that registration link into the chat. We'd love to have you join us for their session. And thank you so much for logging into Job Club today. On behalf of the UK Alumni Association, UK Fayette County Extension Office, and UK HR STEPS Temporary Employment, thanks for joining and have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.